Flash crash. Could stocks be headed for a Wall Street warning or a 10% correction? This pattern here is going to be very important. But first, let's look and see what the headline tells us because the S&P exposure has now hit levels that preceded a 10% slide, or said another way, a 10% correction is not ruled out. So, have you been naughty or have you been nice? Make sure you watch all the way until the end because we do have a stock pick for you. All right. So, what is this pattern and what could it mean for us? Well, let's go back in time. What do we have? Flash crash. That's right. That's what could be happening here. And if that's the case, that's the low we establish. That's the lower low. Okay, low, that would be the lower low. That's right. So, if we're going to go lower here, I think the really important question is going to be whether we actually hold this low. Now, let's zoom out and see exactly what that means because I think a lot of things require some perspective. So, if this is it and the Wall Street bears are going to take over, we need to see bear follow through. Right now, QQQ does not have that. Here's where it is evident. It's right here on the S&P. And this chart looks a lot worse, I'll be honest, than QQQ. What do we have here? We have some really big warning signs. 1, 2, 3, 4, which means right now the bears have a pretty good recipe. And they got that as of last Friday. What do we have this week? We have an inside bar. What an inside bar means is a pause inside of the dominant pattern. What's the dominant pattern? I just told you it's bearish. We just got the bear recipe. All right. Now make this really easy for me because my brain is sweating a little bit. No problem. Let's make it even simpler. Let's go here and delete everything because what we want to think about is whether this 10% slide could turn into more and could it happen? That's really important. Let's just look here at a very simple pattern. It's how far do we get above the blue line on the weekly chart before we eventually test it? It's the big one. Boop, boop, boop. That's the bear market. Really, that's the bear market? That's it. So we went for too high for too long above the blue line. And when we finally came back to actually test it, that was it. Dead cat bounce, lower low, dead cat bounce, lower high, fade, lower high, lower low. That was it. That was the bear market. Where are we right now? Oh, we've been like pretty far from home base for a while here. No true tests. No, there's no true tests of the blue line. It's not happened yet. So if we finally test it, is that going to be it? I don't know. I don't think it will be. And that's no surprise to people on this channel, but I do want to provide a balanced view. So if you're looking for the bearish recipe, make sure you understand what chart you're looking at. Here for the S&P, 100%. This is a fail breakout. So we can slice this more than one way. We can say higher low, lower high, and we can also say that it failed to hold, which it did. Formed a higher high, failed to hold the area where it started. That means it's right on the month. That's correct. I want to make you think about one more quick thing here too. As we go into the new year, on January 20th, something is going to happen. Please remember that. It's a big event. If we look here to previous annual charts or 12-month charts, what do we know? Lower tail on the bottom, lower tail on the bottom. What could that mean? Into 2025, if we go down, what could that form? It could form a little tail on a massive real body. So just be mindful that if we do see a lower tail, it could be a small one. And if I'm right, that lower tail is likely going to be for buying. It's the same thing we see here. If after that, we're able to recapture the current high or get above 610, blue sky breakout. There's nothing but higher highs after that. All right, let's make it a little bit easier to follow here. So if we're going to get that bearish recipe, I just told you, I could see it happening for another month here, all the way into roughly January 20th, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. What we have to ask ourselves is whether this time's different. Do we just blindly not listen to the bear recipe? I wouldn't. It's giving us pretty strong signals here. If we look back in hindsight and say, oh my God, why is SPY at 570, 560, 540? And what do? Did we manage risk going into there? Did we ignore the warning signs like volume, which usually precedes price? Was all that we were doing looking at QQQ, which right now does not have these bearish signals? Last week it was at number 2. Right now, it's an inside bar. Technically, we're not broken down yet. And on the monthly, higher highs currently over the high. Yes, it's got a large upper wick, but technically it's above 516. So depending on what chart at what time we look at, we're going to see different things. Looking here at QQQ, above the November high, above the November low, above the July high. All right, make it even simpler. We're above the short-term price and the long-term price. It's bullish. If we look at S&P, This is what I mentioned on the opening stream this morning. But just before I do that, I'm going to ask you for a huge favor. If you could please consider smashing that thumbs up or subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Thank you very much ahead of time. If we look to the 50 DMA, which is what I talked about today, I said that if we form a lower low, we could shoot down to the 50 MA. I did not think it would happen all in one day. Santa Claus was like, no, no, no. You got some coal in your boots this time. Well, that's what happened. Stonks went down. You fired Tesla. Maybe you're not the shadow president anymore. Maybe he's not. And this is really important because big cap stocks into 2025, a lot of people don't think they're going to be super fantastic. But here's the tricky part. They cannot sell right now. If they sell right now, they have to pay tax. I believe it's in April. That's when we have to pay tax. If they sell in January, the first week, the second week, when do they pay? 2026. So that tax bill becomes much easier to swallow when it's deferred for another year, which means that I think there's going to be added pressure to these big tech names, which could give us that lower tail I just talked about on the S&P. If that lower tail happens, it means that we're going to be lower than we are right now. So we're likely going to lose the 50 MA if I'm right. What does that mean? It means the crash I just talked about, showed you on the 15-minute chart, right? That short-term time frame. That's right here. That's QQQ as well. It means we're going to lose this low and actually go down. If that would happen, it means that we're getting bearish continuation on our bearish recipe for the weekly chart. And as we zoom out to the monthly, it just means we're likely going to form a lower low. Could that lower low turn into a failed breakdown? It could. Could it turn into just a breakdown? It could also be that as well. So what we want to look for is the same thing I've been saying for a few weeks now. We want to see this bearish recipe get upgraded to the monthly chart. As of right now, we would have to see us come all the way down to 580. If we think about this really, really, really simply, if we pretend, again, let's just pretend that we close exactly here in 2 more sessions, which means on the 31st or the last day of the month, that would mean that we could decline by roughly 2% into 2025 before we would actually have a monthly lower low. What did we decline by here into 2024? Let's have a look here. I'm really curious. 1%, 1.1. So from the open, we gap down too, though, right? We gap down from the open here. So from the open, there we go. There's that sweet number, 1.8%. Oh, yes, that sweet, sweet Oda Musk. What's Oda Musk, you might wonder? You'll find out. From the let's go from the open here to the low. 1.7%. Beautiful. Love it. Why? That's the number I was looking for. And I didn't prep that ahead of time. So if we're going to get a crash, it might just be a buying opportunity. Stocks might go on sale. Maybe we're frothy. I think we are. I don't think that this is going to be the time for us to worry about this, though. All right, that number 1 pick. Let's get it here. All right, Santa. So stocks have been a little bit mixed, but let's zoom out here to be objective. There's Mr. Green. There's Mr. Mixed. That's the Christmas special. And then looking back at year to date, here's what I find interesting. It looks like people are window dressing. They're pretending like they owned the good stuff the whole time. We go back here all the way to year to date. That's what they're pretending like they own. That's right. So if we're going to be getting these alerts, people are likely going to be looking to sell some big caps into the beginning of the year. What would that signal look like? Well, look right here. Losing luster. Dawson on the Magnificent Seven. This is Cameron Dawson. Mag 7 outperformance over the last months is unsustainable. Sets up for sharp short-term leadership rotation to start 2025. Oh my God. What makes this just a trade and not a lasting rotation? Earnings. Okay, there you go. So we're seeing GDP ramp 2.3, 2.7, 2.6, 2.8, 3.0. All right. And the Fed is doing something they've not done all the way back, I don't know, since at least 2007, if not earlier. It's called a pause. They think they're going to get away with it. I am not so sure. All right, Santa Claus. So what was that alert we were talking about? It's PSQ. If PSQ is going to be actionable, what does it give us? A window of opportunity of 3 weeks, which means we're looking at the 1-day chart and a risk reward of 1.91. We can go here and we can see that this is the chart we're looking at. It thinks that the NASDAQ's going to go down for roughly the next 3 weeks. What I basically just told you was we could see some tax gains being harvested next year. And most people, 86%, that's like most people, think they're going to be higher but not fantastic. So why not sell them now and rotate into something that'll work better? That's what it really looks like to me. So Santa, what are you saying? Be prepared that these stocks might go on sale. I actually added this to my personal portfolio as well. So I got PSQ right here, 50% waiting on my account as a hedge. So if you're interested in joining us, we do have a 45-day free trial. you can actually try these exact things out as well. It's called our Santa Special. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to see more, you can go to thealgo.com to trade with me. Thanks so much.